Dere, and welcome to the 13th video of our series History Lessons with RedWineLover17. In the last video I introduced you to the mystery around HMS Albemarle. We are now checking out our first premium ship, Tier 5 heavy cruiser HMS Exeter. HMS Exeter was the second and last York-class heavy cruiser built for the Royal Navy during the late 1920s. Her hull, with an overall length of 175 meters, a beam of almost 18 meters and a draught of about 6 meters deep, load was powered by 4 Parsons geared steam turbine sets, each driving one shaft. Her 80,000 shaft horsepower let her reach a maximum speed of 32 knots or 59 kilometers per hour. Exeter's main battery consisted of 6 203mm guns in 3 twin-gun turrets. Furthermore, she was equipped with 4 102mm AA guns in single mounts, a pair of 40mm AA guns and 2 triple torpedo tubes. The ship was the 4th ship of her name to serve in the Royal Navy and laid down in August 1928. After her completion on 27 July 1931, the Exeter was assigned to the 2nd Cruiser Squadron of the Atlantic Fleet. In 1934, she was transferred to the America and West Indies station and remained there until 1939. When the Second World War broke out, the ship formed part of the South American Division with County-class heavy cruiser Cumberland and was assigned to Force G. In December 1939, Exeter and light cruiser Achilles were ordered to rendezvous with Leander-class light cruiser Ajax off the mouth of Rio de la Plata, while HMS Cumberland was refitting in the Falkland Islands. Achilles and Ajax arrived on December 12th, and the next morning the German cruiser Admiral Graf Spee spotted the Exeter. The German cruiser decided to engage the 3 British ships at full speed, and the British force had a textbook approach for it. The Royal Navy strategy for engagements like that was to divide the force into 2 divisions and splitting the fire of the adversary. Heavy cruiser Exeter operated as 1 division on her own, while Achilles and Ajax formed the 2nd division. However, the strategy was only partially successful, as each tactic has a counter to it as well. Admiral Graf Spee opened fire at Exeter at 6:18 with high explosive shells, and Exeter returned fire around 2 minutes later at a range of 17.1 kilometers. Shrapnel from near misses killed Exeter's starboard torpedo crew and damaged both Supermarine Walrus seaplanes. A few salvos later, Admiral Graf Spee scored a direct hit on Exeter's B turret, knocking it out and killing all but 3 personnel on the bridge. At 06:30, the German cruiser switched his focus to Ajax and Achilles, but only inflicting minor damage before it was forced to turn away in order to evade Exeter's torpedoes. Because of that maneuver, Admiral Graf Spee once again prioritized the Exeter, scoring several hits and knocking out A turret as well as starting a few fires amidships. When even Y turret was temporarily disabled, Exeter's Captain Bell said, "I'm going to ram the SOB. It will be the end of us, but it will sink him too." Fortunately, the turret could be repaired in time and remained shooting until flooding disabled the machinery for Y turret at 07:30. At 11:07, the captain informed his Commodore that the Exeter had a single 203mm gun as well as 1 102mm gun available and could make a mere 18 knots or 33 kilometers per hour. As a result, Commodore Harwood ordered Bell to head to the Falklands for repair. HMS Exeter was hit by a total of 7 283mm shells, killing 61 crew members and wounding another 23. The Exeter hit the German cruiser 3 times, disabling the ship's oil purification equipment. This meant that the Admiral Graf Spee would not be able to return to Germany and was scuttled a few days later in the harbor of Montevideo. The Exeter was repaired until January 1940 and was then modernized in England until March 1941. After her return to the fleet, Exeter spent several months conducting patrol and escort duties until she was assigned to the newly formed ABDA Command, which stands for American, British, Dutch, Australian Command, with the goal to push back the Imperial Japanese Navy in the East Indies. On 25th February 1942, the commander of ABDA Naval Forces, Vice Admiral Konrad Helfrich of the Royal Netherlands Navy, ordered all available warships to join a striking force at Surabaya, East Java. The Exeter, as well as the Australian light cruiser Perth, which were escorted by British destroyers Jupiter, Encounter and Electra, immediately set sail, leaving behind another Australian cruiser and 2 destroyers that were short of fuel. Arriving 1 day later at Surabaya, the striking force consisted of 5 cruisers and 9 destroyers, which were tasked with intercepting a Japanese invasion convoy. However, the force couldn't find any Japanese ships and had to return to Surabaya while being tracked and harassed by Japanese bombers. Just as the ships entered the harbor, Commander Karel Doorman received reports of enemy ships 140 kilometers to the north. Naturally, the commander ordered his ships to turn again and intercept the Japanese force, commanded by none other than Rear Admiral Takeo Takagi. Takagi, who was well aware of the ABDA movements, detached the convoy's 2 escorting destroyer flotillas, each consisting of a light cruiser and 7 destroyers. Together with his heavy cruisers Nachi and Haguro, the flotillas should intercept the Allied force. At 16:03, the Japanese light cruisers and destroyers fired their torpedoes at a range of 12 to 14 kilometers at the ABDA force. 1 torpedo hit Exeter but failed to detonate. All the other torpedoes missed their targets. At 16:38, Haguro hit Exeter's starboard aft 102mm gun before detonating in the aft boiler room. The result was horrendous. 6 boilers were knocked offline and 14 crew members killed. The Exeter had to sheer out of line to avoid further damage, but all cruisers followed her. Moments later, a Haguro torpedo critically hit Dutch destroyer Cortena, breaking her in half and sinking her almost immediately. Australian cruiser Perth laid a smokescreen to protect Exeter, while the other ships divided into separate groups and tried to disengage. Takeo Takagi's fleet did not pursue the cruisers, but tried to torpedo and sink the crippled Exeter, which could not make more than 5 knots or 9 kilometers per hour. At 17:20, the Japanese fired torpedoes at ranges of 9 to 17 kilometers, but missed all of them. Japanese destroyers Asagumo and Minegumo continued to close in on the Exeter and launching their torpedoes from around 6 kilometers. British destroyer Electra pulled out of line to counterattack and secure the retreat of Exeter, and her escorting ships Encounter and Witte de Witt. Even though Electra managed to damage Asagumo, the British destroyer was sunk at 17:46. Nevertheless, Exeter and her escorting ships finally reached harbor in Surabaya. After making temporary repairs and refueling on the next day, Exeter, Encounter and American destroyer Pope were ordered to steam to Colombo. Unfortunately, the ships were intercepted by several Japanese heavy cruisers and destroyers on the morning of March 1st. At about 0800, the Allied ships spotted 4 Japanese cruisers, each with their float planes in the air. At 9:30, the Japanese force opened fire, forcing the Allied ships to lay smoke and turn away to the east. Exeter was able to reach a speed of 26 knots or 48 kilometers per hour before a shell detonated in her forward boiler room, knocking out all power at around 11:20. Completely defenseless, as no guns could train or traverse, Captain Gordon gave order to abandon and scuttle the ship. By the time the abandonment was completed, the ship listed over to port at a considerable angle. Wanting to get the kill shot, the Japanese destroyers closed in and fired 81 torpedoes at Exeter, of which 2 hit. Exeter rapidly righted herself, paused briefly, and then capsized to starboard. British destroyer Encounter was destroyed approximately 15 minutes later, while American destroyer Pope survived initially, just to be sunk a couple hours later by Japanese airplanes. 652 crew members of the Exeter were rescued by the Japanese and became prisoners of war. Of these, 152 men died in captivity. With that said, our video on HMS Exeter comes to an end as well. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We'll be back with more gameplay videos soon, and next time we are starting a new tech tree line. Russian battleships starting with tier 3 Gungut. See you soon, and derve.